Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Steven Universe review. This one's going to be for Season 5 episode, what is it, 27, 28, 29, and 30. It's like a 4-part or 2-part, it's weird because like most of the episodes of Steven Universe of course are 11 minutes, but then some of them are 22 and they're only considered one episode. So either way, this was the, I think, Season 5 season finale. It feels in a way like it was a series finale, but I don't think they gave enough of an epilogue for it to, I think, feel fully like they could just end it like that. So it definitely feels like there's more to come. And we know there's the movie, and then Season 6, I think, is confirmed. I'm very unsure about what that's about, because as I said, it feels like most of the plot is actually done here. So what, in a way, like what else is there to cover outside of just some kind of clear-cut like epilogue stuff, to just wrap up the final kind of character relationship type stuff. But if that's what Season 6 is, if they just kind of use Season 6 as kind of like an extended epilogue to most of the plot being over here, I'm kind of all for that. I don't think I need the show to go on for like a ton extra. You can have a big action-packed movie, of course, and then your season of kind of wrap-up. But as for this, as the wrap-up to the Diamonds Are a Problem, a Homeworld kind of arc, I thought it was actually really, really well done. Yes, it was a little bit rushed in the sense of like such a huge arc of like a whole species basically under the same sort of kind of culture, attitude towards things, and it's wrapped up fairly quickly like this. But given the power that White had over everyone and the fact that Steven eventually did get through to her, I get why that's the case, and that I think they went out of the way to kind of point out that White's influence was a lot of the reason it was like this, and the fact that Steven was able to kind of convince Yellow and Blue very early on in these episodes to side with him and to feel for basically everything that had been done to Pink basically before. And in that sense, that's what I really liked here. Of they've been playing with this idea about like who Steven actually is. Is he just his mother, or is there a validity to the fact that Yellow, Pink, and White are all referring to him as Pink and not Steven? In that, should Steven just take on that role and just be the next Pink, or is there just a fundamental difference here? There is a different. They are different people. We get an answer to that later on, but I think early on, just him addressing the fact of like, I know how she felt, and in the same reason, like, look at what you're doing right now. You must have done this to her so many times before, making her cry, making her feel guilty, making her feel wrong for just being herself. No wonder she left. And Blue realizing that, and then having the strength, I suppose, to fight Yellow over this, and then Yellow realizing the same thing. I thought that was all really well done in character, that it would make sense that Blue would be the one to be the most convinced, because Blue kind of had the most connection to Pink, and then Yellow has the most connection to Blue, so Yellow being convinced by Blue makes sense. And then just it taking basically everyone but Steven to get through to White in the end. We saw a lot of great action, a lot of fusions happen, a lot of new fusions actually. So we got a part of this was obviously to go in and get the other gems who'd been poofed back, and to get to basically, they basically explained that because they were poofed by someone so powerful, they were going to stay like that for a while. So Steven got around that by actually fusing with them while they were still in gem form, and that was a way to sort of reactivate them, I suppose, basically giving them some of his energy. And we got to see, what was it, Smoky Quartz. We got to see Rainbow Quartz, but how Rainbow Quartz looks like with Steven instead of Rose. That was pretty cool. And then I suppose most notably actually was probably Sunstone, the fusion of Garnet and Steven. That was a really cool design, and then the personality basically just acting like the stereotypical hero, like always giving lectures of like do right, don't do drugs, that sort of thing. So that worked really well. We didn't get to see, you know, the powers all that much because ultimately they were leading to an even bigger fusion, that being oh my god, what was it? Obsidian. Sorry, Obsidian, which is the fusion of all of the crystal gems, at least the initial group, not including Bismuth or the returning Lapis and Peridot here. We saw a lot of new character designs as well. With when everyone came back, they kind of had a slightly new design. So Peridot has her star. Lapis now has these kind of like the best way I can describe them is like kind of like martial arts kind of trousers. But still very very cool designs. Pearl has this kind of small jacket thing, which works really well. And yeah, as for Obsidian, which I was just talking about there, very very cool design. Obviously really really huge, bigger than Alexandrite, and the color obviously fits the actual stone Obsidian, and the attacks and stuff like that here, of the idea of like it's stone and there's kind of lava inside and they kind of form a sword from the inside of the mouth. Again, very very cool. It definitely, like, this is probably where you could tell that like they just boom 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 boom, here's a little bit of everything, and that like arguably I think most fans would have liked to have seen Sunstone for a little bit more time, rather than it just being a quick 1 or 2 minute, here's the character, climbs up the leg, gets thrown away, we need to go bigger. Skip past that interesting design into a new one, and this is the more kind of monstrous one that doesn't really speak. So, you know, very very cool design. Not the greatest effect. The opponent, of course, was the what was it, arm, leg, torso, ship thing that actually combines together. So the Diamond's main kind of weapon here, the Colossus thing, I don't know if there's a specific name on all of the bits combined together, but it made for a very cool kind of big fight at the end. A lot of the gems couldn't really do anything here. Even though Connie got a new sword, she didn't really get to use it apart from a brief scuffle against Pearl when she was hit by White Diamond's powers, and that's what it all led up towards. That fight led to the Colossus being kind of slowed down, so they could climb in through the eye, and the confrontation with White Diamond, and basically the reveal of, I suppose, what her powers do, in that she fires them at you, and it affects your gem in a way where she basically kind of takes over your personality, and she can speak through that person, and it just basically turns them into a zombie. In her mind, in her words, it is taking away someone's flaws. And we begin to see the characterization of White here. That's why she is the way she is. That's why she seemingly opposes like fusion and stuff like that. That's some of the stuff where like this as potentially a wrap up to the main plot probably still needs some resolution, in that like they probably need an explanation about like why was fusion between different gems banned, given that White Diamond's main problem is like gems being flawed. Like ultimately I get the idea of like, is she trying to make the point that just cross gem fusion is something that creates flaws, which I can sort of understand, because the idea that we see with them is that the more you cross different gems together, the more monstrous in a way the final product ends up being, whereas gems in their just standard forms are fairly like standard. There's a fairly clean design to them, and there's no real monstrous features. But then the second you start to combine into 2, you get multiple eyes. Into 3, you've got extra limbs all over the place, and then by the time you get up to 4 and 5, it's like multiple legs, multiple arms, multiple eyes, and it's just getting really 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 crazy. So is that the point that's trying to be made here? I guess so. That's why the opposition of fusion kind of comes into play, and why fusion between gems of the same type doesn't really matter, because that just increases size basically. Again, like I'd like an explanation on that, why that is the case, where the design elements become a bit more kind of monstrous as the kind of different gems stack on top of each other. But the resolution to all of this, it was the big moment, probably my favorite moment in terms of like something shocking happening, was her taking over Blue and Yellow as well in all of this. They stand up to White, and she obviously can't deal with that, so she turns them into her, mindless slaves as well, so they'll just go along with the plot. And Steven then kind of stands up, and as everyone else is basically taken over, she grabs him, and because he says he's Steven and not Pink, he's not his mother, she decides to test that for herself. So she takes the gem out of Steven, and this is where we get, I suppose, full confirmation on everything that Steven, like, isn't just his mother. The gem is his now, and there's a connection between all the previous, like, versions of, like, Rose and Pink, but fundamentally, as it is now, the gem is Steven's, and Pink is gone, and that it's just the lingering kind of memories. There's not a case of like she is right there fully within him, like I think Pink and White especially, I think, thought that this was just Pink, like she transformed into Rose, just transforming again into someone else and acting like she's not Pink Diamond. But in this case we know that it is actually something very different, because Steven is human, part human in all of this as well. So that was a cool reveal, because suddenly you have like a kind of weak, pure human Steven, and then you have this gem Steven that is, basically Pink Diamond. And there's no personality really. That's the point they were trying to make with this, is that the Pink Steven didn't have any personality, and all of the personality came from human Steven, and it was a shock to everyone. And I thought the effect that they did on this of just having, because White Diamond was controlling everyone in the room, everyone is just staring at this in awe as Connie drags Steven over to the Pink version. The Pink version with no personality is able to just block everything. I suppose this was the example of like Pink's power at maximum, basically, that it is super defensive and able to block even White's most powerful attacks, and just the idea of like basically Steven refusing with himself, him fusing with, I suppose, the power, fusing with Gem Steven into himself, right in front of White, and I suppose the full confirmation that Pink is gone and the person you're talking to here isn't the same person as before. There's just a connection there. I thought that was actually really well done. And the line I thought was also very good, of just like, I am a child, what excuse do you have? And her kind of getting, embarrassed, and the effect kind of being that she basically, in a way, blushes in a way from embarrassment. And it's meant to be this flaw that she is embarrassed by what was just said, and it being this flaw that she seems to have. They could have hit on that point a little bit better in the writing of just, her just getting embarrassed is what is the problem here. Some of the dialogue was really well done. I think like White kind of taunting Steven by saying like, you surround yourself with weak and like broken, damaged gems so you can be the best of a bad bunch. And in a way, that's exactly kind of what White is doing, where like she tries to hide her flaws by, forcing everyone to be a certain way around her, so she can always be the best of, a forced set of people around her. But in the end, she listens to Steven, and she is able to change her mind about things. And this is, where it is very rushed. It's very quick, but I think they hit all the points they have to in coming to the end of this, of just them immediately basically cutting, like, go back to Earth, Sadie's doing a concert, everyone arrives back, including Lars. They have their quick reunion, and it's nice, and they seem to be back together. And it's little moments like that make you kind of confirms to you, okay, this is what season 6 is probably going to be about. There probably has to be another Lars and Sadie episode to see where their relationship is, and then kind of give everyone a last moment now that we've dealt with the crazy stuff on Homeworld. Last key moments resolving some of the more kind of beach city focused plots, and kind of we'll end the show in that way. The reason they went there in the first place, I suppose, was to try and get the Diamonds help with, helping the corrupted gems, and they basically montage through that of like all the gems to get together. They create this kind of pool, kind of purification pool type thing, and this seems to heal for the most part the corrupted gems with the idea that it stops them from just being monsters and turns them back into, I suppose, their sentient forms, but they still are physically affected by what happened to them. So they do look very different than most like normal gems, but they're back to sort of being normal now. And you get little moments like there's Jasper, her kind of seeing what's going on, and Amethyst getting a chance to kind of see her again. And final song from Steven. I actually really liked him singing the opening theme, like the full version of it at the concert. The song at the end, the Change Your Mind song, was nice, but fairly short, and then they just kind of pretty much end the episode with that. As I said before, I actually really liked this as a finale to the main plot. Was it perfect? No, but I think it did some really great things in terms of just some big reveals of like new fusions, some nice kind of little action moments, the dialogue and how they did the characters and the interaction of characters to get to the conclusion. For the most part, really well done. The two Steven bit was really well done, along with a lot of the dynamic, I think, between White and the others. In that, like, you definitely would say that the Diamonds, most of them all being introduced fairly recently into the show, have all been developed very well as individual characters. All of them pretty much going from being just, they all just are completely entrapped in the homeworld culture, but then like him getting through to Blue and Steven managing to get through to Yellow, and in the end them all kind of getting through to White. That all worked and fits the overall, I suppose, kind of themes and ideas of this show, that you're always able to sort of, with your feelings, kind of get through to someone in the end. It's not entirely like realistic, and in a way you almost wish that this show could have like a moment where it was just a fight to the finish and not just the talk the villain down all the time. But it fit for what they were trying to do here, given that they ultimately needed White to kind of they pretty much needed, I think, all of the Diamonds to eventually be on the same page to make some change. And I suppose what they also need to resolve there is just, okay, now that the White, I suppose, controlling everyone is over, how does Homeworld where does Homeworld go from here? Obviously, they're not going to take over places and stuff like that, but how do they, I suppose, continue their species in a kind of healthy way? How do they change the culture to fusion's okay? You don't have to follow all of the Diamonds in this exact way and change the entire structure. Little bits and pieces like that are stuff that they probably need to resolve, and that's why I lean towards a final season 6, whenever they confirm the exact details of that, being more of a wrapping up the final plot points rather than introducing some new threat or anything like that. The movie probably is your opportunity to introduce like a final threat and have a big action set piece. Season 6, I think, does have to be probably more character driven. And this would just to accomplish stuff like wrapping up a lot of the relationship stuff and see where we're going in terms of what our end game like ships, and just finishing it off in a nice way. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this big episode of Steven Universe, the season 5 finale. I think obviously the problem with the show has always been like the waiting for the episodes, and there's going to be more waiting, but it's a bit more understandable between like finales and stuff like that, waiting for the next season to start. That makes a lot more sense. Was it worth waiting all this time? Probably not, just because the first viewing, I think, of a lot of season 5 is really, I think, badly affected by just how broken up the season was. In that, I think if you are able to watch basically the complete back half of season 5 all in a row straight through, I think it probably works really, really nicely together. But if you're just watching the airings of this, like you have months between episodes, if you don't have time to rewatch everything, this can be kind of feel very confusing, very disjointed, and that when we came back a couple of weeks ago after months off, I'd completely forgotten where we are. Thankfully, the show really isn't that complicated to get back into, so it only took me a few minutes into the episode to realize where we were, but it's not ideal, but that's just been an always kind of complaint with this show and how Cartoon Network seems to run it. But that's my thoughts on this episode. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on this episode of Steven Universe and what I had to say about it. But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.